LA restaurants are not doing well, especially after the fires. Before the fires, we were hearing from people, restaurateurs in LA, that things are not going well. The cost of food went up, the cost of labor went up, and the reservations went down. But after the fires, things got a lot worse. My guest today is John Carlo Pagani, who's a successful restaurateur from LA who owns multiple restaurants. He's been taking some action on all of this. Today, he's gonna tell us what does it look like on the ground in the restaurant space in LA, where the space is headed. Also, he will tell us what does it take to start a successful restaurant. I'm Siyamak Khorrami, welcome to California Insider. GianCarlo, it's great to have you on, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We wanna talk to you about restaurants in LA, and especially after the fires. They are not in a good shape. Can you tell us what's happening?
The fires was a shock to the entire restaurant industry. In a sense, it feels like a second pandemic. We were going into what looked like one of the strongest Januaries since COVID, I'd say. I think 2022 was a very strong year, but since then, we were going into a very strong January that was impacted immediately by the fires. And I think like most small businesses in our industry, restaurants, nightclubs have been impacted severely by it. The week of the fires, we shut down the restaurants for a couple of days just to understand what was happening. And first of all, to make sure everybody was safe. And then also, we didn't want to be open during what was happening. Shortly after when the evacuations were raised, we reopened the businesses. And with a lot of unknowns and uncertainty, if there would be any diners, but from our perspective, we had to open to give our teams a chance to earn a living, because if we're shut down, that means there's hundreds of employees that can't work. And while we're going through this experience, you know, I was personally talking to other friends who own restaurants or other small businesses throughout Los Angeles, and we were all in the same boat at that point. And as we started listening to the mayor, the governor, all the city officials talking about recovery, there was a lot of narrative around rebuilding without anything specifically related to supporting small business. And so I took it upon myself to write a petition to Karen Bass and to Gavin Newsom with a very simple request. And the request was to add narrative whenever they can about getting people to go out and support their small businesses, whether that's going to your favorite museum, going to your local coffee shop, going to your favorite restaurant. All of that helps the local economy, because a lot of the people that work in our business, especially in the restaurant industry, are people that were directly impacted by the Eaton and Altadena fires and the Palisades fires. So we have people throughout the city that had a devastating incident and then can't work to try to dig out of the hole. And so it took it on myself that at least if I can get people to support this idea of talking about getting out of the house and going supporting your local business, it would help.
Did it create a shock for the community so people didn't come to the restaurants? Is that what
Absolutely. I think it's such a significant incident that happened. And so if you've lost a home, I can imagine you're not thinking about going to any restaurants. So reservations get canceled and plans get canceled in general.
Are the restaurants doing okay? Are they back to normal?
Some. Mother Wolf, which is in Hollywood, has mostly recovered from January 7th. We just recently, this past week, reopened Monday service, so now we're back to 7 days, and we're not at 100% of where we were, before January, but we're on the path, and we have confidence in that business. Another one of my restaurants, MXO by West Avila on La Cienega and Melrose, is not the same story. We opened in last September with really great reception in Los Angeles, and by December we were, the business was doing fantastic, and post-fire it's been a very difficult recovery. We haven't recovered because I think the business was a little bit too new to have such a devastating kind of citywide incident that's happened. But a lot of the restaurants that have been institutions in LA, you start to see recovery. But at the end of the day, if you go on OpenTable or if you go on Resy right now, you can probably get into the hardest restaurant to get into in Los Angeles, whichever one it is. Whereas 3-4 months ago, to get a primetime reservation on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night was probably impossible. You wouldn't even try. Check now. You could probably get in. And that just goes to show that there's a lot less diners going out to restaurants, and the pool of diners has shrunk.
And the average ones were the ones that didn't have that big of a following, or that they were not that hot. They're probably
struggling. Yeah, they're struggling.
For your petition, the goal is to raise awareness so that people can come out and dine. Has that had an impact?
I haven't heard personally Mayor Bass or Gavin Newsom go out publicly and start saying these things. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened. It just I haven't specifically heard it since the petition was filed. Although we did get a lot of support in the process of the petition by City Council member of District 4, Nithya Rahman. She was a big advocate. She signed the petition. She helped connect us to Mayor Bass's office, and we had a great meeting with them, I want to say 2 weeks ago, and they were actually great at giving me and my team a lot of information that we didn't know was available in regards to how to get support if your business was impacted. Whether it's a way to deal with the SBA or whether there was websites for additional information, but a lot of that we used not just for our business, but we passed the information along to our team members who needed support.
There's an event side to your business as well, and that has been impacted, right? Can you tell us about events in LA?
Yeah, so I think the biggest impact to my business was from events. In January with the Grammys, that's one of our strongest periods of the year for events. And this year with the fires happening in early January, all of the Grammy business was canceled. And then the next big period of time in Hollywood is the Oscars. And the Oscars still went on, and there was... it definitely recovered significantly from the Grammys, but a lot of that business was still lost.
And when those events get canceled, can you tell us how it works? How does it impact?
From a venue owner perspective, it's not just that we lose the revenue or the event. It's these events have a small microeconomy around them, whether it's food service providers, production and lighting companies, cleaning companies, outsourced staffing companies. There's all these different layers to producing an event that now people that work in those departments or those companies lose opportunity. And
so all of that is gone. When one event gets canceled.
Correct. All of that goes away when one event gets canceled. And you hope that, if it's not related to a specific kind of citywide event like the Grammys or the Oscars, that they may rebook in the future to kind of recover that. But it just depends on what the purpose of the event was.
How long do you think for it to come back? Do you think the event business is coming back? Is it coming back already?
Slowly coming back. It's certainly not where it was at this time last year. I truthfully think it's going to be another year before we're really recovered.